And I'm Paul Higgs, and this time next Saturday, Everton will be underway with their opening Premier League game of the season as Fulham come to Goodison Park next Saturday. So we're going to talk all things Everton for the next few minutes, and we're joined on the line by someone we've not spoken to for some time, but it's always good to talk to Dave Johnston from the Falcon Blues. And thanks for joining us today, Dave.
Pleasure, Paul. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you. And I think it is really surreal, isn't it, Dave, to think that had events on the final day of last season gone differently, then Everton could have been kicking off in the Championship today. But, you know, here we are, Everton 7 days away from the start of yet another Premier League campaign. And as a lifelong Evertonian, Dave, what are your thoughts as to where Everton are right now, leading into the new season just 7 days away?
Thankfully, we're in the Premier League. That's the main one. But I think Everton as a side now need to get their identity back. Everton need to get back into a style that suits them, suits the fans, and just ultimately is enough to keep them in the Premier League. I think there's a lot of... I think where we've looked at a few seasons where we've gone, the expectation's been quite high. I think people have come to a bit of a realisation. I'd like to think, I know personally I have, to think, well, actually, right now, we've just faced 2 seasons on the spin fighting relegation. We need to be a bit more realistic of what our expectations are, and maybe we're looking at, well, maybe mid-table is where we need to be in order to stabilise and be ready for, you know, to move into the new stadium. Because I think ultimately that's what the club's goal has been, stay in the Premier League for as long as, for the remainder of, of Everton, but just also to say, well, we're in the Premier League as we go into Brownlee Moor.
You know, a lot has been said, Dave, about a lack of signings, of course, this summer, and Sean Dyche says that Everton are working hard to bring in additional signings, but he has confirmed, of course, that they have missed out on a number of transfer targets this season. So just 2 signings to date, Ashley Young on a free and also Dan Juma on a season-long loan. Dyche goes on to say that it's a tough market and there is only so much that they can do. Do you go along with that view?
Yeah, because we're still under the restraints of financial fair play, unfortunately. And, we can say we've got all this money, but if we're not making enough money to be able to spend it, then that's on the club. We might be offering as much as we possibly can for players, but ultimately it's down to the player. But at the same time, we could be offering this money for players and things like that, and in the end you just go, well, listen, I don't want to play for Everton. I don't want to be in a relegation battle. I've just seen how you've fared over the last couple of seasons, how you are with managers, how you are with players and recruitment and things like that, and go, well, actually, I don't want to play for Everton, and that's a real kick in the teeth for someone as big as the club, as this club. But I think we've got to, as I said just then, we've got to be realistic about what we can achieve financially and in the transfer window.
And clearly, the biggest concern for Evertonians looking at last season was the lack of firepower. I think just 34 goals scored in 38 league games. Now, Dyche has gone on to say that a lack of goals is always a concern. Of course it is, because if you don't score the goals, then you're not going to win games. And leading on from that, I believe there is speculation or news that Everton are possibly close to signing a deal to bring a teenage striker in, a player called Youssef Chermiti, if that's how you pronounce it, from Sporting Lisbon. He is a youth international. He's 19 years of age. He broke through at Sporting last season. He scored 3 goals in 21 appearances in all competitions. I mean, clearly the need for a striker for Everton speaks for itself. But this player is not a player that I'm familiar with. Arguably, he's not going to come with a great deal of experience. Do you believe that Everton are likely to sign another striker before the season begins next Saturday?
I think it's highly unlikely. I mean, I think we would almost pin in Dan Juma on being that striker more than anything. But with this new lad coming in, Dimitri from Sporting, as you say, I think we've got to manage expectations with him as well. He's not going to be that player who's going to hit the ground running and bangs in 20 goals. He might do. If he does, great. We've bought a bargain, but I think we've got to give the lad time to settle in. Like you say, there's the lack of firepower is there for all to see. But CalvertLewin's on the score sheet today against Lisbon in the friendly, and that's what he needs. I think, although Everton were short of goals, the form and the goals we were scoring last season once Dyche came in put us in a decent position. And when Calvert-Lewin was available, goals were coming. So I think what we have to look at, because of financial restraints, is to make sure Calvert-Lewin is fit every game, is wrapped up in cotton wool all week until the following Saturday, and just manage the kids' expectation. I think the good thing we've got there is Lewis Dobbin has come in and made a bit of an impact as well. So there's firepower there. There's capabilities there. I think it's sort of all about Dyche has got to tap into that and has got to get more out of the likes of Iwobi, Onana, James Garner as well. I think goals will come if we play to their strengths, and that's something that Dyche has to realise and get into, because he's not going to get a new striker before the end of the week. He's not going to get a new striker before the end of the month. Certainly not the one that Evertonians and Everton need. I think we just need to be realistic about it all more than anything.
And I'm pleased you mentioned Lewis Dobbin as well, because I know he's played really well in pre-season for Everton. And I think, he wants to step up his game. He wants to take his game to the next level. And potentially, this could be a good season for Lewis Dobbin.
Definitely. I think it's one of those ones now where if you're getting in the first team, you've got to start taking that chance, especially at Everton, where you should be given that opportunity as well. Everton really should be looking into tapping into the youth team and looking at what we've got because of what we can't spend. Ultimately, it's all down to not having the money, so we've got to look and be clever and be cute about where goals come from. And if Dobbin and even Tom Cannon, if he can get fit, if he doesn't go out on loan, gets given the opportunity, which I'm sure he will this season, given how he did at Preston, they need to grasp the nettle, both of them, and make it count for Everton.
And there is real quality, isn't there, Dave, in the Everton academy? As you say, young players who potentially are on the cusp of making that breakthrough to the first team. And it's going to be interesting to see maybe what we will get from the academy, as the seasons progress.
Yeah, this is it. Like I said, we've got to be cute about how we go about recruitment now, even if it is bringing in young 16, 17, 18-year-old kids who may not have got the chance at maybe a bigger club, like maybe Chelsea or United or something like that. And we've managed to say, well, listen, we can give you first team football. We might give you that opportunity. There's a better option to make your way up the ladder at Everton and produce for Everton. And I think that's what we've got to do. We'd be stupid going out and trying to break financial fair play rules, trying to buy strikers that we can't afford or players we can't afford, when we've got a vast well of talent that we need to tap into, which we just haven't for so long. The last one I really remember was Tom Davis. Before that, Jack Rodwell. There's never been a player there that stepped up, and we've got to tap into this and see what is available for us.
You mentioned a minute ago about Dominic CalvertLewin, of course. His ability to play when he's not injured will always make the headlines. He's playing against Sporting this afternoon, and I believe, looking at what I can see here, he's having a good game. And actually, what he's doing today, DCL, he's showing the extent to which he can improve this team when he is fit. But as we know, he's not fully fit, is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. As a result, I think he only scored 2 goals, I think, last season for Everton. So whether, he's going to be at his best for this season remains to be seen. But I just wanted to ask you about Dan Juma, because, of course, he's been brought in from Spurs. He played a few games for Spurs last season. Are you excited to see what Dan Juma could bring to the party this season?
I am, and I was excited when we were trying to bring him in January. It's just the way things were that he ended up going to Spurs. I was listening to a couple of things where we played against Stoke last week, and he said he wasn't really in the game. Well, the lad's barely played properly for 6 months, so I can cut him some slack with that. But it's another option. It's another attacking threat that we've lacked for so long. We need someone, like Iwobi, like Damari Gray, like Dwight McNeil. So to add someone like Dan Juma, who's quick, and, he can put a ball in, he knows where the net is as well, which he scored plenty of goals for Villarreal. I think time will tell, but I think he'll have a point to prove as well, which is good, because I know he's sat on the bench at Spurs and going, I probably could have been at Everton here and I could have been making a difference, keeping them in the league and whatever else, but it never came to be. So now it's like, well, this could be his last chance saloon to get a proper deal or another contract properly anywhere. or he's going back to Villarreal and probably sitting on the bench. So it could be for Dan Juma, this could be the kick he's needed, and which could benefit Everton.
I think with Dan Juma, he's got this unpredictability about him that I think could be exciting to see this season. You know, he's got the ability to beat a defender, tight control on the ball. So I think it could be really interesting to see what we're going to see from him. Just for the listeners listening to this, Dave, who may not be aware, Dan Juma made just 12 appearances for Spurs last season. He played less than 200 minutes, so as you say, he didn't get a lot of game time. But what excites me was when he was playing for Villarreal in the Champions League the season before last. He scored 6 goals as Villarreal exceeded expectations to get to the semi-finals in the season before last. And as a result, Dan Juma became Villarreal's leading Champions League goal scorer in the process. So he clearly can score goals on the big stage, and it's whether he can do something similar to that, clearly, for Everton when the season gets underway.
Yeah, of course. And I think with the likes of McNeil, Garner, James Garner, Onana in that side with him, options will be available, goals will come, and so will chances. So it's on him. It's up to him to do what he needs to do. He's going to definitely have a point to prove at Everton.
Let's just talk about Demarai Gray as well, because there are talks going on for Demarai Gray to move to Fulham. We know that he joined Everton for 1.7 million back in 2021, scored 12 goals for Everton in 75 appearances. And we also believe that Crystal Palace, Besiktas, and also clubs in Saudi Arabia are also interested in signing Demarai Gray. Would you be sorry, Dave, to see him go?
If we haven't brought in a replacement yet, but I think, like you say, 12 goals in 75 games says to me that's a 1 in 5 sort of player. And I think for the goals that we've severely lacked, we need a 1 in 2, 1 in 3 kind of player. And don't get me wrong, Demarai Gray will hold a special place in Evertonians' hearts by putting it from that ball that he put in for CalvertLewin's header that kept us up against Palace. But I think if we were to make 10 million on it, it's you have to take those chances, and you have to say, listen, thank you very much for your effort, but we can't turn down 10 million quid. But I wouldn't let him go. I particularly wouldn't let him go until next Friday at least, so we can't play against Fulham. But I was also, not unless we've got a replacement in, and I think he needs to realise that as well. If we haven't got a replacement, you are staying at Everton, and you will play. You have to play. You can't sulk about it and demand these things and not train. Like apparently he's not trained for 3 days. That's not good professionalism to me. Listen, train, and then if you need to move, you want to move, go and talk to other clubs and whatever else. But ultimately, mate, you're still an Everton player, so you should be playing to your contract, and I think that's going to leave a bit of a foul taste with some people going, well, why not turn up for training? What's the problem? Why? What if it falls through and you suddenly don't want to move to Fulham, or they're not offering us enough, and now you're just going to sulk and not play? But I think with Gray, like I said, he's that 1 in 5 player that shines when he needs to, but doesn't shine enough. And I think that's why he was gone. He left Leicester, why he left Leverkusen. He needs to find a place for himself now, Demarai Gray. He's not going to be getting any younger soon. He's going to be coming up to a peak in his career where it's like, okay, well, where do I go from here? Am I just going to be that player who just goes around clubs? Or have I found a home either at Everton, or do I need to move on to Fulham?
And if you're talking about players, Dave, who need to have a positive mindset at Everton and who want to wear the shirt, you might not be talking about Demarai Gray, but you could be talking about Jared Branthwaite, because the centre-back has been talking about his ambitions for the season for Everton, and Jared has said that he wants to impress Sean Dyche. But of course, you look at Jared Branthwaite, he comes into the new season as part of the England under-21s team that won the European title this summer. So, he's feeling good about himself. He was on loan at PSV Eindhoven last season. He got some pre-season minutes in against the Stoke City side last Saturday, and he says it was nice to get minutes on the pitch again and to play in front of the fans. Training has been good. It's been tough, like I expected. Hopefully the manager has a decision to make for the first game of the season. So clearly Jared Branthwaite would be keen to get his boots on against Fulham next Saturday, but there is speculation that Manchester United could be interested in signing Branthwaite. Do you think that the youngster has got a future at Goodison?
I think he's fantastic. I think he did really well and impressed at PSV. You know, he scored some goals when he needed to. I think he scored 2 in one game, and everyone was all watching along, expecting him to score a third. He's a young lad, and I think that's what will excite Evertonians as well. You know, there's a young lad there who wants to play for Everton. He's not an Evertonian. He's not from the area or whatever, but he wants to be here. He wants to be part of Sean Dyche's plans. I'd love to see him alongside Tarkowski, because they're 2 big units, and that's what, you know, we've looked at Michael Keane for so long, and he's always flattered to deceive with Keane. He'll have one good game and then he'll have an absolute stinker. We've lost Yerry Mina. Ben Godfrey hasn't really kicked on from, you know, since lockdown, really. I know he had COVID and everything else, but he hasn't really pushed on as a centre half, really. And I think we need to make sure that we've got a solid centre half pairing. You know, it was for a period, it was Cody and Tarkowski. You know, Conor Cody's now moved on, and then it's gone to Michael Keane, and we were conceding goals and making silly mistakes. So we need to now solidify a proper centre back pairing that will be there and be the mainstay for the remainder of the season. Obviously, Tarkowski's played every game all season. I'd like someone of the same quality and calibre, if hopefully that's someone like Jared Branthwaite, to do the same and not miss a game, and we're not switching centre halves every week.
I do agree. I do think he's got a really exciting future ahead of him, so we'll watch what he does this season with interest. What's all this talk, Dave, about Harry Maguire? Because the speculation or the talk is that Everton have leapfrogged Spurs and West Ham United in the race to sign Harry Maguire. We know he's got his critics, but he does know the Premier League. He would come to Goodison with quite a bit of experience. Do you think Harry Maguire could potentially be a good fit at Goodison if it were to go ahead?
I think when you go to United, you've got that level of expectation, and especially with that price tag. I mean, what was it, 80 million or something they paid for him? And then you look at it and you go, well, is he in too big a club for him? I know, you know, we won the league with Leicester. Fair play to him, because that Leicester side was excellent. But it was just like, that was a Leicester side wasn't a colossal team. You know, the United side there were, you know, they were winning leagues, and they were in Champions League and everything else. And it was like, we brought him in because what we expect, and like the expectations are so high on Harry Maguire. Coming to Everton, I think it would probably just wouldn't be as expectations wouldn't be as high, if you like. I don't know, but I think, like we just literally just been saying there about Jared Branthwaite, I'd rather just put our money and our resources into someone who scores goals, if we've got the likes of Jared Branthwaite ready and wanting to play in the first team. But Maguire would be a good acquisition, but I think, you know, I don't think we could afford his wages. We'd have to be paying at least, you know, United would have to pay at least 75% of that. It's only about 200k a week, so it's a lot of money to ask for a centre half.
Yeah, it is indeed, and you know, we'll see what develops with that. I have to say, in terms of Harry Maguire, you know, I think he's got a lot of football left in him. He's 30 years of age, and I think he's one of those players, isn't he, where if he has a manager who shows faith in him and what he does, then he can play really well. You've seen that with England. And it'll be interesting to see whether Sean Dyche could also extract that type of mentality from Harry Maguire should he make the move to Goodison Park.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Dyche likes his big centre halves, doesn't he? You know, you saw that with Ben Mee, with Tarkowski, with Michael Keane. He's always had that big unit of a centre half. So for him and Tarkowski alongside each other, great. That sounds like a great pairing. But again, though, I think it's more resource for me. I mean, if he comes to Everton, then great. You know, it's another squad player. I wouldn't say squad player, but another player within the squad that we need, because we need to beef up this team. But I think for the money that's being touted, and if it is a loan move or whatever, I think the money needs to be very, very right for Everton, not for the player.
So before we finish, Dave, let's just get your expectations for the season, because, as I say, it begins again next Saturday against Fulham. You said before that potentially a mid-table finish for Everton could be a good result, maybe for next season. When you look at this squad, do you get any belief or any hope that Everton can avoid the relegation scrap that we've seen the last couple of seasons?
Yeah, I do. I think, we've looked at games. You look at Brighton last season, you look at Arsenal at home last season. There's glimpses and there's shoots of progress of what can be done with this Everton side. But I will ultimately say, give me stability. Give me a season where I'm not looking over my back at Sheffield United, Luton, or whether, the results with Man City and whoever means that Everton drop down the table as a result, or, just give me a season where I can go back to watching Everton at Goodison Park. I can enjoy going. I can enjoy it with my mates. I'm not arguing with people over social media about wanting the manager out at Christmas. Just give me, I would even take at the moment, just say, listen, I know people will moan, but this is my personal opinion. I know it's 28, 29 years since we haven't won a pot, FA Cup, League Cup, whatever it might be. Give me the league stability first and then progress. That's all I want. I just want an easy season this year. I don't want to be panicking on the last day of the season. I don't want to be panicking at Christmas thinking, oh my God, where are we at Christmas and where are we going to go from here? What are the changes that we need to bring in? The club itself needs to take a good look at itself now and go, okay, what do we need? We need a striker, we need a centre midfielder, we need an attacker, we need goals and we need to do it and we need to find it fast. Players need to probably take a look at themselves as well and go, okay, I'm not hitting the ground running here, I have to. You can look at the likes of, Neil Maupay, Mikalenko, players there who need to shape up or be shipped out, if you like, and then all the fans need to just go, right, we need stability, we need to just be as one, the way we have been for the last the last couple of seasons with everything that's happened, back the team and just relax. I think but the club needs to give us that ability to relax as well. So I would say, yeah, we've got the potential for a mid-table finish. I think there's no reason why we can't. We've just got to believe in ourselves to do it.
Well, listen, Dave, it's been really good to get your thoughts this afternoon. Always good to talk to you. We'll keep an eye on Everton as they begin their campaign next Saturday, and hopefully we'll get you back on air throughout the season and get your thoughts as the season progresses. But Dave, really good to talk to you today from the Falcon Blues. Thanks for your thoughts, and all being well, we'll speak again very soon.
Pleasure, Paul. Thanks very much. Yeah, speak to you soon.
There you go. That's Dave Johnson, as I say, from the Falcon Blues, with his thoughts ahead of Everton's campaign getting underway next Saturday.